You get swole and you get strong with your muscles and you get strong with your mind. Sabriel by Garth Nix, the first book of the Abhorsen trilogy or the Old Kingdom Trilogy, depending on which one you want to call it, was a book that kind of surprised me. I knew a little bit about it, or at least I'd heard of it, and I found it at a bookstore, and I thought, this is one that I've heard of. I've heard of Garth Nix in a couple different series, and so maybe I should pick this up. And I picked it up, and it's a pretty relatively quick read. It's not, you can see the book right there. It's not that long, and it's got a pretty good pacing to it that allows you to just continue to read. And it's not that deep. And that's kind of the subject of the video today, is the magic system. And I want to compare it to another book series that is pretty unrelated, pretty different in taste and in style, from Sabriel by Garth Nix. But I think the comparisons are there. So before we get into that, I just want to give a brief little summary of what the book is and kind of give my my rating of it and how much I enjoyed it. Talk about the plot and the characters a little bit, and then we'll get into the crux of the video. So the brief summary, it's essentially about this young woman who is at this college on the south side of this giant, essentially a magic wall that prevents, or that keeps the new kingdom from the old kingdom. Okay, and that's kind of the setting of the story. She's really good at the school. She gets a message saying that her father needs help, and her father is this Abhorsen, which is essentially kind of like a magical guardian of the dead, it seems like. And she hops on some skis to the wall, tells the soldiers that she needs to gets through, and then goes on this adventure to find her father, to fight off dead creatures, and kind of learn about and understand the magic of this new, of this old kingdom above the wall. And so that's really the story. And there's a lot of traveling. There's some interesting characters that we meet. And it's a pretty straightforward, not even really a fetch quest kind of story, but just a quest. It's a magical quest. There's something to get, something to find, a person, a thing, and we follow our character and the people and the characters that she interacts with and meets along the way as they go through this quest. So from a plot summary standpoint, pretty basic, pretty straightforward quest story. Looking at the characters, I think Sabriel is an interesting, well-written character. She has grit, she has toughness, she has some sense of humor, but she also has this, the main thing is just kind of her desire to continue on. So she faces a lot of trials and hardships as the story goes on, and she's very resilient in her journey and the thing that she's trying to strive for, the thing that she wants to get. And so that's an admirable quality in this young woman character of Sabriel. I enjoyed reading about her. I would enjoy more books about her. I know there's the trilogy. I don't know if they're all about her. I have all 3 books. I bought them used, so we'll get to it at some point. But as far as I know, the first one is about her, and then we'll see where the rest of them go. But I enjoyed reading about her as a character. I think she's a good voice to tell the story through. I think the setting is maybe the most interesting part of the whole story. Just it felt very anime to me. It felt like I was reading something that I could watch. She's at this school. She's a schoolgirl, but she's older than, it's college age, and she's kind of over some of the younger students. Magic is there, but it's kind of secret. There's this giant wall. You have soldiers there. There's guns. There's vehicles, but there's also an understanding that there is magic as well. It's wintertime when the story starts, and so she skis. That stood out to me so much reading the beginning of this book. She gets this message. She needs to go to the wall. She skis there. She puts on some cross-country skis. I can just see that image in my mind, which is a testament to how well Garth Nix writes, that you can really visually see what he's telling you about and what he's describing. But I'm imagining this fantasy anime series, where she gets this missive, this message, and she hops on skis and just goes to this wall. It's just very visually striking. So I think the setting is interesting. Then she goes beyond the wall and everything that you see there, and the creatures and the way that the magic system works and all of that. So setting, plot, characters, it's a good recipe. I think it's a good recipe. And I hadn't really read something that made me think so much of an animated kind of fantasy series in a while or ever. So this was on that front. If you're looking at this and you're thinking, I'm not sure, and you like that kind of fantasy mixed with maybe some like old technology. It almost felt like World War II era kind of technology. And you have those kind of blending together. It's a fun mix. To get to the point of the video, the magic is what I really want to talk about. And I think the beauty of this book for me is that it didn't get super into the weeds on the magic system and how that all worked. So the basic rundown of the magic, as I understand it, is that as far as Sabriel is concerned and the Abhorsen title is concerned, they are beings on this side of death who are able to transport souls to the different levels of death, essentially. And so you kind of step into that, and it's like a river, and you move through that, and you have these bells, and the bells signal different things that affect different types of dead creatures or spirits, sort of. The sword is important. It's marked with these runes on it. The charter marks, everything is kind of charter magic. And that seems to be a word that isn't really described very well. And I totally could be missing something, but I don't really think that I am. And I think that it's okay because the magic is kind of explained as the story goes on, but not in a way that feels like convenient, as in, okay, we didn't have a solution for this. We're just going to throw magic in and say, oh yeah, we could always do this. And that's just kind of the way it is. It more feels like she's uncovering these things and learning about these things, and it's making more sense. And so it's making more sense to her, but it's also informing us how the world works and what the world is like. And so that is, to me, is really clever. And it doesn't get too far into the complexities of here's the magic system, here's all the rules and the laws of it. And it's become science. It still remains magic. It still seems like it has that kind of sense of mystery to it, which is fun. And she rings a bell, and that is kind of a cool visual as well. She has a magical sword. There's, she's making these marks. There's just some cool magic elements to it. And the comparison that I have, so I've got Sabriel here, book 1. This is, it's got it. Another cool thing about the cover here, I'm a sucker for good covers. I also love the art style, by the way. The art style is really cool. The cover reveals more after you've read the book. You notice a sword down here, and it's got these little runes on it that you can barely see at the bottom. There's what sort of looks like a wave, right there. That's, part of the story. You've got these bells right here. She's ringing a bell. You've got this black kind of smoke, ghost looking creature, creepy fingers. There's just elements to it that it looks cool just as a cover. The art is awesome. And then it kind of reveals more as you read. So that's really cool. But the point that I wanted to make here in this video, and I've drawn out to get to it, but Sabriel, the book, is very similar in my mind to Red Rising, the book by Pierce Brown. And I love this book. I thought this was great. I think books 2 and 3 are better, and it's a really, really awesome trilogy start to a longer series. But the thing that I really thought was great about this is that he doesn't dive too deep into anything. It's very fast paced. It's not that big, and it doesn't need to be. It doesn't add a bunch of fluff and a bunch of weight, and there's not all these massive explanations of the science and everything. And some of the science is like, okay, I could sort of see what you're doing there, and some of it is magic. Basically, it's beyond possibility. But it doesn't need to be explained. And when the character doesn't need to know exactly what it is, if the main character of the book was a scientist or something, or a character who would be interacting with how all of these, high science elements would take place and how they would work, then it would make more sense for us to dive into the logistics and the rules of everything. But as our character is not that, it doesn't make sense for the reader we don't need to know. We just need to trust that, oh, you can adjust the gravity on this spaceship. That's great. That's all we need to know. And then when they say the gravity is now, 0.6 of Earth, or it is now, 2x of Earth, it's like, okay, I can understand what that means, right? And so Sabriel, in the same way, when she rings this bell or that bell, I kind of get, as the story goes on, you understand what part of death she's in, which river she's standing in, so to speak. It doesn't get super deep into it. There could have been another 100 pages of just deep explanation on what the science of the magic is. But in my mind, that would just detract from it and remove some of the mystery. And so I'm a big fan of a little bit of mystery in my magic. I think that keeps it magical. I'm not interested so much in reading a science book. I saw the movie The Martian. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I saw the movie The Martian in theaters when it came out. And I thought it was really fun, really great. I like the idea of kind of this Robinson Crusoe on Mars, essentially, is what it is. It was just a really fun movie, good music, good acting. good story. And then I read the book because I thought, oh, I should read the book. It's, I enjoyed the movie. And the book, to me, because it's so hard science fiction and it really does try to do all the science really well, to me it was boring because I'm not much of a scientist. I don't really enjoy that much myself. So that detracted it from me. And I know that for some people, they think that book is fantastic. And I have friends who love the hard science of things. And so they're a big Andy Weir fan because of those aspects of his writing. And so it's all personal preference at the end of the day. If you're looking for a book that has a really fun setting, has an interesting quest story, and reveals things throughout as it goes on, and doesn't just get too deep into the science of the magic, I really recommend Sabriel by Garth Nix. And I'm looking forward to reading the next 2 books. I've got the box set here, and it's obviously used, so it's not in the best condition. But again, the art is just really cool. We've got a picture of this lady on the back side. So we'll see what goes. I love going into books when I don't know very much about what's going on. Not even don't read the back of the book. Don't read the, in any sort of description. If you have some good faith that it's something worth reading, I think it's good to go in as blind as possible. That's kind of my review of Sabriel by Garth Nix. I would rate it, I think I gave it a 5 out of 5, or it's probably like a 4.5 out of 5. It's really good, really solid, really fun. It was mostly a gym book. I read it at the gym, and it's nice. It's small. A good gym book is just, you read it between reps, between sets. You get swole and you get strong with your muscles, and you get strong with your mind. Read a book at the gym. It's better than scrolling on your phone, unless you're scrolling through a book. Sabriel, Garth Nix, reminded me of Red Rising, Pierce Brown. Very different in a lot of ways, but in the lack of explanation, very similar. So I recommend reading it. We'll look forward to getting to the next books in the series at some point. So thanks for watching. Thanks for following along. Have you read Sabriel? Do you think that I'm right? Do you think that books should be more in depth with their magic systems and they should describe more? Or is it good to have a little bit of mystery and a little bit of suspension of disbelief and go, oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't realize that was really going to happen, and just kind of go along for the ride. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.